Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be posting content again. I know it has been a while since I have made a video for the channel, but that's because, as I said in my last video, I have been traveling, and during my travels, first of all, I didn't take any video editing equipment with me, and second, I had the worst internet connection ever, so I barely got to play any GBL. I was actually really worried that when I got back, I would be out of practice and sort of forget how to play. I guess if you can forget how to play GBL. But I got back to it a couple of days ago and I felt really comfortable playing this team. I got so many wins. I was really surprised. I did get my starting elo only 2 days ago, so I'm really late to the game this season. But I started off in the 2250s, which is a little bit low compared to where I've started in previous seasons. But also that's because, like I said, I had terrible internet connection while I was traveling, and I just wanted to reach rank 18. That way when I got back, I didn't have a lot of games to play to reach my starting elo. And I ended up losing a lot of games due to lost connection or lag. So yeah, that's just unfortunate. But in just 2 days, with this team that I'm going to share with you guys today, I almost got to veteran. I was only 12 points away, and then I ran out of sets. I think either today or tomorrow I might be able to reach it. I might try to reach it in Master Premier. I am super excited for Master Premier to be back. If you guys remember last season, I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm gonna keep running Dragonite Double Fire. I really like that team. But in this video, I am running Altaria Feraligatr, Shadow Feraligatr, and Shadow Typhlosion, and let me tell you, Shadow Typhlosion has been amazing. It just had its Community Day Classic come back, and I believe most of you should have it. Unfortunately for me, during Community Day Classic, I was on a plane. I did not get to play it, but I had a few Shadow Typhlosions evolved from before with Blast Burn, so I was able to build one for Great League, and I should be able to build one for Ultra League as well. Unfortunately, because I missed Community Day Classic, I won't have one for Master Premier, but I don't think it's going to be that impactful in Master Premier. It doesn't power up a lot. It's also ranked really low, so we'll have to see. I'm sure a few YouTubers will make it work. But for today, this team is super solid. It is extremely weak to Bastiodon, I should say, and Carbink. So usually if I see Bastiodon on the lead, I will just top left immediately. But I'm okay with taking those losses as long as I get to use this team, because against other teams, it is going to perform so well. The Feraligatr and the Typhlosion are going to output so much damage, and usually if you can get a shield out of the way with Altaria, then your backline is going to be really good. Especially if you can get shields out of the way and you have Typhlosion left with 2 shields up, then usually it is going to be able to take care of most of what your opponent is going to have. This team was recommended to me by a friend, but he recommended it to me with Goodra lead. Goodra is going to be able to take care of those Bastiodons a lot better than Altaria, but I really wanted Altaria for its bulk. Again, the team is like super squishy, so when I put Altaria on the lead, I was able to handle fighters and Lickitung, which I am seeing a lot more consistently. Before I get into the battles, I just want to go over some leads and how I handle them. For Ice-type leads, I will immediately swap into Shadow Feraligatr. So if you see a Alolan Sandslash on the lead, then the Shadow Feraligatr is going to be able to outpace to the Hydro Cannon if your opponent decides to stay in. So they'll usually go for that Drill Run, and you will be able to reach the Hydro Cannon before they can reach the Drill Run, even though you swap in and you lose a turn, and you'll be able to realign your fast move to your opponent's fast move. That's only if they stay in. Usually they'll swap out. And for Azumarill lead, I will immediately swap into my Feraligatr as well. Feraligatr, if you shield the first play rough, will be able to do really well against Azumarill. Sometimes I will even double shield against Azumarill, and I will be able to farm the Azumarill down and have a lot of energy on Shadow Feraligatr, and Feraligatr will be healthy coming out of that match because it's just taking the bubble damage, and usually I'll be able to take shields from my opponent, or I'll be able to take out whatever they bring in next. Charmer leads are a little bit tough because I have to swap in that for Alligator and you just hope for the best. But every other lead, you stay in with Altaria and you either try to soft lose and then come in with one of your back Pokemon and farm down, or you will be able to win the lead with the Altaria. Hopefully some of these will be a little bit more clear when we get into the battles, so I'm just going to stop talking now and let's take a look at these videos that I have. Up first, we're going to have a little bit of a tricky lead, and I say tricky lead because the stone edges from this Quagsire are going to hurt, especially since it is Shadow. And I usually don't like to invest any shields on my Altaria, but I decide to go ahead and use a shield there that my opponent swaps out into Cresselia. Now, usually the Cresselia is not going to be running Future Sight in Great League, so I bring in my Typhlosion. It looks like they are running Moonblast and Grass Knot. They're going to be able to reach another move. Unfortunately, it's just a Grass Knot, so my Typhlosion is able to survive that. We take the Cresselia out with the Typhlosion. My opponent brings that really annoying Quagsire back in, and I decide this time to bring in my Feraligatr, and hopefully I should get shields out of my opponent or take this Quagsire out. However, my opponent goes ahead and baits here, and that means they are going to be able to reach a Stone Edge up against our Feraligatr. They go ahead and invest their second shield, and now this Stone Edge, unfortunately, is going to take the Feraligatr out. I'm just hoping that whatever my opponent has in the back, my Altaria is going to be able to take care of it. It looks like we are going to be able to take care of the Skeledirge that my opponent has in the back. I reach 2 Sky Attacks before they can reach a move, and then the Quagsire is in farm down range, and I'm able to take that win. Oh, and it looks like that's going to be the end of that set. Clearly, I talk too much because I've already spoken through an entire set worth of games, so let's move on to the next one. Up first, we're going to see a Gligar on the lead. Altaria does really well against Gligar. They are only going to be able to hit us with Aerial Ace for neutral damage. Our opponent goes ahead and swaps into a Charjabug, and I'm going to be able to farm the Charjabug down completely with Typhlosion and have a ton of energy for the Gligar that my opponent is going to bring back in. Now, I go for a Blast Burn, and then I have to go immediately for that second Blast Burn. Otherwise, if I throw an Incinerate, my opponent is going to be able to reach a move before I can get the Blast Burn off. So, it's bad timing, but if you recognize that your opponent is going to make it to a move before you can throw your charge move, then you go ahead and you throw it. My opponent invests both shields into that Gligar, which is the beauty of Typhlosion. Those Blast Burns are absolutely going to destroy the Gligar, and my opponent is going to have a Dugong in the back. Unfortunately, we do get baited with the first move. They go for an Icy Wind, but it's fine because I should be able to survive a Drill Run perfectly fine with Feraligatr. I'm able to reach 2 crunches and take this Dugong out, and I'm even able to reach a Hydro Cannon on the Gligar, take the Gligar out, and then take that win. Up next, we have probably my favorite battle of the entire video. We're going to see a Lickitung on the lead, and Altaria absolutely destroys Lickitung if they don't invest a shield. If you get the 2 Sky Attacks off, then you will be able to win lead. Gonna go for that first Sky Attack. My opponent is going to no shield, and of course, I am not going to shield anything from this Lickitung. I'm going to let these Body Slams go. I should be able to survive another one, and I should be able to reach another Sky Attack before the Lickitung can reach another Body Slam. I'm going to take that Lickitung out, and I swap out immediately into Feraligatr to avoid getting farmed down by the Sableye that my opponent has. My opponent is, of course, going to go ahead and shield the Hydro Cannons. If you only land 1 Hydro Cannon, you'll be able to take the Sableye out with the Shadow Claw damage, of course. And I should be able to reach another Hydro Cannon. I will be outpacing because my opponent gets to Foul Play in 6 Shadow Claws. I get to Hydro Cannon in 5. And also, Feraligatr is going to win CMP over Sableye. However, my opponent goes ahead and catches the next Hydro Cannon on a Bastiodon in the back. This is going to get extremely close, but I have to reach another Hydro Cannon. Otherwise, the Bastiodon is absolutely going to destroy my Typhlosion that I have in the back. We're able to reach a Hydro Cannon and get them into Incinerate range. We take them out with 1 Incinerate, and my opponent has a Foul Play on the Sableye. I pause for 3 turns, and then I manage to catch the Foul Play on my Altaria. Now they are almost energy dry. They have one Shadow Claw. I'm going to be able to reach that Thunder Punch, but my opponent recognizes this, and they go ahead and they top left. Had to slow that recording down a little bit for you guys to see that, but I was pretty happy with that gameplay, because like pausing and taking a Shadow Claw and pausing for one extra turn as well, and then catching on Altaria, that was pretty cool, I think, right? Anyways, moving on to the next battle, we see a Bastiodon on the lead, and this is basically an automatic loss for me. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next match. I don't know why I'm staying in this. I was hoping that maybe I could do something here, but we all know how this is going to go. On to the next battle, we are going to see a Poliwrath on lead, and Poliwrath is actually really tricky for this team. It is going to be resisting everything from Feraligatr. It's going to be doing super effective to Altaria, unfortunately, with the Icy Wind, and it is going to be debuffing us. We are not going to be able to reach those Sky Attacks very quickly, so I go for a Sky Attack here. My opponent goes ahead and shields their Poliwrath, which is not great for me, and I decide to let my Altaria go here. I'm just going to bring in Typhlosion, and I should have gone immediately for that Thunder Punch. I should not have let him get to a move, but I did, and for some reason, I don't know why I'm playing this like this, honestly. I played this match really poorly. My opponent is going to have a Toxapex in the back, and at this point, I am calling that this might be a triple water team. If it is a triple water team, then my Typhlosion is pretty much toast. I have a little bit of energy on it, so let's just see how this plays out. I go for a Crunch up against this Toxapex. I don't have any shields left. They're going to go for a Brine and take us out. I have to go for a Thunder Punch, and my Typhlosion at this point is basically dead. So whatever my opponent is going to have in the back, which is a Swampert, I wasn't going to be able to handle that Swampert anyways. I am just going to go ahead and take a loss there. Alright, moving on to the next battle, we can see how we handle Azumarill with this team. I'm going to immediately swap into Shadow Feraligatr and go for these Hydro Cannons. I just need 3 to take this Azumarill out. Now I'm going to go ahead and shield the first Playrough. Sometimes I'll shield the first Playrough only, and sometimes I will shield both Playroughs. Going to go for another Hydro Cannon here. It will get the Azumarill into the red, and I'm even able to reach a third Hydro Cannon before my opponent is going to be able to reach that Playrough. And at this point, I decide to invest both shields because I think I can farm the Azumarill down. However, my opponent decides to not let me do that. They swap into a Gligar and they invest their final shield into their Gligar. My switch timer is up, so I am going to swap into that Altaria and take these Aerial Aces like a champ. I should be able to reach the Sky Attack before my opponent can reach a third Aerial Ace. I'm going to farm up as much as I can before my opponent can reach another move, throw that Sky Attack, take that Gligar out, and let's see what my opponent decides to bring in next. They bring in a Skarmory. Okay, this is a little bit tough because they farmed us down and I have no shields left. So I bring in Feraligatr to force my opponent to throw their energy. They go for a Sky Attack, and then I am going to bring in the Typhlosion. I remember this. Oh yeah, no. I played this okay. This was not the one where I messed up. I called that my opponent was going to try to catch on Azumarill, so I kept farming, and luckily it worked out in my favor. In another game that I played later on, I don't have it recorded, I think, I was trying to call that my opponent was going to catch, and it did not work out in my favor. Unfortunately, it backfired, and my opponent threw a move on the Pokemon that they were using, and I lost. So sometimes it works out, and sometimes it does not work out. Unfortunately, when you get caught in that Incinerate animation, there's not much you can do. But in this case, I called it correctly, and we take that win. Moving on to the next battle, we are going to be met with a Medicham on the lead, and this Medicham is running Psycho Cut as the fast move, not Counter. And luckily for us, they're not running Ice Punch either, so our Altaria is able to take them out. We even take a shield from them. We're able to reach 2 Sky Attacks. They don't shield the second Sky Attack, and we're able to win lead. Now, I have a tendency to, if I win lead with Altaria, but I survive with red HP, I will blind swap into my Feraligatr to avoid getting farmed down because my backline cannot handle an opponent with a massive energy lead. So I immediately swap into Feraligatr before seeing that my opponent brings in Registeel, but it's fine. I am going to go ahead and shield the Zap Cannon, and then my opponent swaps into a Typhlosion. I'm able to outpace to the Hydro Cannons and take the Typhlosion out, and my opponent, it looks like they went ahead and they left the game. So I am going to be able to take that win because they realized that it was game over after I took that Typhlosion out. Moving on to the next battle, we get another really tricky lead. I cannot swap Feraligatr into this, so I just stay in with Altaria. Altaria is going to be taking neutral damage from the electric type moves. I'm going to let this wild charge go. Sometimes I survive and sometimes I do not survive. But in this case, I survive. I'm able to reach the Moonblast. My opponent invests a shield, and I bring in Typhlosion and incinerate the Magnezone down before they can throw another move. So that's really lucky for me. My opponent is going to have an Annihilate in the back. I go for that Blast Burn to take my opponent's final shield, and it looks like they have a Mantine as their third Pokemon. I'm going to be able to hit it with these neutral crunches, and at this point I am not planning on investing any shields into my Feraligatr. I'll just save my shield for my Typhlosion. I should be able to reach another crunch before my opponent can reach an Aerial Ace. I'm going to go for that crunch, and it's enough to take the Mantine out. They bring that Annihilate back in, but I am going to be able to reach a Thunder Punch. This is going to be enough to take the Annihilate out, and we take that win. GG's to the opponent. Moving on to the next battle, we are going to see a terrible lead of Alolan Sandslash. Now, as I said in my intro, I am immediately going to swap into that Feraligatr, but my opponent does not stay in. They swap into a Charjabug. They go ahead and they shield the Hydro Cannon from my Feraligatr, which is good for me because that means one less shield for Typhlosion to go on an absolute rampage in the back. But I wasn't going to invest any shields on my Feraligatr in that matchup, especially since they shielded, so I let Feraligatr go, and then I bring Altaria back in. Now, rather than sticking to a full farm down with the Altaria, I decide to swap into Typhlosion to get an energy lead, and luckily we're able to register the Incinerate damage on the Charjabug before they can throw a move. My opponent brings in a Gligar, and they go for a Night Slash, but then for some reason they catch the Blast Burn on their Alolan Sandslash. Very interesting move. I was going to be able to take the Gligar out anyways, and then I could incinerate the Alolan Sandslash down, or do as much incinerate damage as I could, but I think my opponent might have had a chance to win that. I'm not sure. Interesting play from my opponent catching the Blast Burn on a Pokemon that is double weak to it, but whatever. A win's a win. We take that win. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next battle, we are going to be met with an Annihilate on the lead. Now, unfortunately for me, this Annihilate is running Ice Punch. I am going to go for a Sky Attack here, and my opponent even manages to catch it on their Lantern. Really nice job. I am absolutely getting destroyed, but luckily for me, I am able to reach a Moonblast on Altaria. We take a shield from them, and then I am going to bring in Feraligatr. I absolutely have to shield whatever this is. It is a Thunderbolt. I'm going to be able to CMP tie on the crunch with this Lantern. Luckily, it is enough to take them out. Otherwise, I would have had to take a move. My opponent is going to have a Superior in the back. I reach a crunch, and we get a defense drop, but unfortunately, I'm not able to reach another move. Now, I think I'm going to bring in Typhlosion here, and my opponent swaps out into Annihilate before seeing what comes in. They go for an Ice Punch, and I actually could have no-shielded the Ice Punch here, but my opponent is going to go for a Frenzy Plant up against our Typhlosion. Luckily, it is not enough to take us out, and we're able to incinerate the Superior down and take that win. But it was definitely not the correct call for me to shield the Ice Punch, knowing that they only had Ice Punch, because Frenzy Plant was going to do a lot more damage, and I wasn't sure if my Typhlosion would survive that. But we got lucky. Anyways, moving on to the next battle, we are met with a Stunfisk on the lead, and they bring in Venusaur when I bring in my Feraligatr. but I managed to take a shield with them, which is good. I'm going to go ahead and shield my Typhlosion here. I have an energy lead now on my Typhlosion, and my opponent is going to bring in a Pelipper. They have a Stunfisk and they have a Pelipper left. They decide to no shield the Thunder Punch, and it one-shots their Pelipper. I'm going to go ahead and shield this Rock Slide here. I should be able to farm up to back-to-back Blast Burns, and my opponent already knows that it is game over, so they no-shield the Blast Burn that I throw, and I am able to take that final win, giving us a 5-0 in this last set for the video. Now, unfortunately, I get really close to Veteran, but I'm not quite able to make it yet, and I run out of games for the day. Oh well, I'll make it another day. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you guys try this team out and if it works out for you guys. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like. It helps me out so much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.